So I just watched the War of the Rohirrim movie. I have a non-spoiler version uh, of my review up, so if you haven't seen it and don't want to be spoiled, go watch that. Now, here we're gonna talk about the details. Not the details, because I'd have to think about it. I just can't. I just got home. I paid an $83 parking ticket today, so I'm really livid. Like, I'm fuming right now. But for the record, it has nothing to do with the film. The film did not make me angry. So that is a point in its favor. I was frustrated by certain choices, but it didn't enrage me. It was fun, it was pretty, it was a little slow. The first thing I want to talk about is the narration. Why? Cut the whole thing out. At no point did the narration feel like it was adding anything to the story. If you cut the whole thing out, like usually all the information was in the actual movie. The only moment was, I think, one time they talk about like, oh, many winters have passed and there wasn't anything to showcase that time had passed. That is literally the only thing in that narration that added to the story. Cut the whole thing out. It just took me out every time, especially since what it was saying was very trite and also inconsistent. So at the beginning it kind of starts with like, there are older tales than the Lord of the Rings and things that we talk about in the campfires. But then like a minute later, as they introduce the protagonist in the most melodramatic way, but whatever, they say no songs are sung of her, and I'm like, it feels, I know what they're saying is that there's tales told of Helm but none of the daughter, but the way it's written makes it sound inconsistent of like, do people tell stories about this or not? It's very weirdly worded. The biggest issue I have with it is the protagonist. She is so boring. She's basically Merida from Pixar's Brave if she lacked a compelling mother-daughter relationship and also made no mistakes. Like she has no character traits at all. No flaws, no things. She's just kind of there. She's a nothing character. And everyone was constantly praising her. So yeah, she's like a Rey, and it's only strengthened because the antagonist has huge Kylo Ren energy, and not in the good, best part of a bad trilogy kind of way. He's edgy and supremely unintimidating. Like, I don't think he won a single battle in the entire movie. Like, he never won, so he's not scary at all. I mean, he couldn't even defeat an old lady. Now, the old lady is a Shieldmaiden, but my point remains. Every fight we see him, he either loses or it just kind of fizzles. I hate that. Let your antagonist be intimidating. Otherwise, why do we care? Okay? So there's that. And then her maid, which I can't decide whether I like her or not. I think I like her maid, the maid's character. I just think that she was poorly implemented. The reveal that she is a shield maiden should not be kind of like an offhand remark, because the way they blocked it, it's like she starts fighting and then your brain is like, why is this maid doing so well in this fight? And then in the middle of the fight someone's like, your shield maiden days are over, almost as an excuse to explain to the audience, no, it makes sense that she's fighting. No, you tell us that right before she fights so that we never have that like jarring reaction. You don't explain it in the middle of it, because then you're just confused. She should have defended her, and then someone's like you can't, and then she picks it up and it's like a shield maiden can, and then she attacks. That, because you have to know that she can do this before she attacks. It doesn't make sense. Oh my god. It's a small thing, but it drove me up the wall. You need to explain why someone is good at fighting. An old lady, you need to make the reveal that she's a shield maiden. One, right before she fights, and two, like, epic. Don't just say it offhandedly. That just doesn't make sense. Whatever. I'll talk in more detail about that part because at some point, because I need to think. I need to stew on this. There's a lot. say, I think. And they talked about Gandalf. Oh my god, they talked about Gandalf at the end. They just throw it in. It gave me Grandelf PTSD, and I was like, no, no, he doesn't need to be in this. Cut that out. But thanks for watching. That's all I've got for now. I would have to stew on it for a little bit. I lied. I have more thoughts. What the best part was Helm Hammerhand's death. That was mythic in scope. Absolutely awesome. That is some stuff straight out of Cuchulain's legend. It is freaking awesome, and I love that part. Him giving up his life for his daughter, though, makes perfect sense as a character choice. Just the way it's done, where he's like, I didn't see you, who you could become before, like you need to lead now, and you need to be here. And I'm like, and she doesn't even do it. She doesn't do any leadership afterwards, right? Because the cousin becomes king. So it feels very hollow, because he heaps all this praise to her that you don't see any evidence that she earned. And like, his sacrifice makes perfect sense for him because he's a father. I get that. But she, like, this art of like, you need to pick up where I left off. You need to protect my people. You need to do this. It doesn't, I don't feel like it follows through. She was so boring. She wasn't even like, she was kind of a girl boss, but if she was more girl boss, she would be at least a little more entertaining. She didn't have the sass or the feistiness that usually goes along with that term. There was nothing to her character. There was not a single character trait you can point to about her at all. I think they were trying to invoke like Éowyn and her fighting with the men, but Éowyn, I don't know, Éowyn, it comes off as much more genuine. This character, like, her motivation, like, what she's about, what does she want in life, is so unclear. There's nothing to her. She's just like almost like a hollow character. And it was very frustrating. I kind of understand why they picked her as a protagonist in a very step back standpoint, where, if you're not going to make Helm the protagonist, because the only way you make him a protagonist if he's like a Ned Stark protagonist, where he dies. So who's going to pick up that slack? The obvious choice is the cousin, who ends up ruling, but you could also do the girl, because the girl is the catalyst of that war. So making her the protagonist or the point of view character does make some sense, but not like that, guys. Not like that. She's so uninteresting. There's nothing to her. Give me a character trait, a flaw, something to work through. And then everyone keeps praising her, saying she's so clever and so this and so that. I'm like, she's nothing. She's nothing. This is a common problem I see, where people are too safe with female protagonists, where they're so scared of making them unlikable that they give them no traits. They file them down till there's nothing. And then inevitably they become more dislikable because they're not human. She's not a human. She's just a person who does whatever is needed for the plot of the story. I literally, she's brave when they need her to be brave. She's uncertain when they need her to be uncertain. She always comes up with the solution. It's never someone else. She's always the one who knows the things. She's always the one who knows that there's no moment of learning or growing or a character arc. There's nothing. There's nothing to her. She's just there. And that's the big problem with this movie. Like, if she was halfway likable, the movie would work. But she's not. She's not. There were so many times where I basically wanted to roll my eyes. So one of the things that you have to ask is, why was this an animation? What can they do in animation to service this story, right? And this story, like, when going into it, I was like, okay, a story about the Rohirrim. In animation, you can have the horses be way more expressive, or they be more like, like Disney horses, in the sense of of, you can show that bond between the rider and the horse more because you can naturally show their expressions more in animation. Actually, and I thought, oh, that would be fun, like a fun horse sidekick. None of that. So I'm not quite sure what it gained from being an animation. There was a couple of cool shots in the snow. The snow fight was pretty cool, and there's some cool visuals, but a lot of janky animation, like moments that just were very strange. There's moments where like the camera panned like through the, as if it was live action but it was animated, where the camera kind of moved with things, and they did it in such a way that it made me very dizzy. There's some weird animation flukes. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. I'll think about it. I think there's a lot of writing lessons one can learn from that movie. There was a lot of things that were felt instructive as I was watching it, where I'm like, why did he do it that way? Interesting. But that's for another time. I'm gonna go eat now. I am hungry. See ya.